Good afternoon, everybody. This is a live briefing on the bomb cyclone potential this Friday evening through Saturday. Looks like the confidence is increasing for a hit across southern New England now, with that 966 millibar low getting awfully close to Cape Cod there. Blizzard conditions will be possible across southern New England starting Friday night through Saturday. And this is a textbook coastal storm marking a pattern change that's going to happen. A lot of times these big storms happen very close to a large-scale pattern change. And looking at the long-range forecast models, it does look like there is potential for severe weather across that first week of February. Also, we do have a winter weather advisory into southwestern Oklahoma, some impactful winter precipitation moving from the Texas Hill Country into southwestern Oklahoma, and those winter storm warnings that are across northeastern New Mexico. We are going to break it all down. But first of all, let me show you this pattern that's going to come together that is absolutely textbook for that coastal storm. This right here is the first week of February. That's the severe weather pattern that I'm watching, with multiple trough ejections possible across the southern plains in the first week of February. Look at that. Even looks like during my event down in Dallas there with the NBAA Leadership Association, could even be a large-scale trough. Here's another system that comes in immediately after that. Now that we're starting over again, you can see this system that's dropping to the southeast out of Canada, phasing with this lobe of vorticity along the south. It gains that negative tilt upon ejection across the east coast and then approaches southern New England as a negatively tilted trough with that ridging upstream. There is a lot of debate as to what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the negatively tilted trough, or is it the coastal storm that rapidly intensifies to that warm advection upstream, expanding that ridge beneath the warm advection, leading to that buckled pattern aloft. But I do want to show you the coupled jet feature that comes in at the upper levels of the troposphere, as this is one of the most important parts for a coastal storm. And this is at the 300 millibar level. This shows you that jet streak, the coupled jet streak structure that I was just telling you about. Here you can see the jet streak aloft. This is one of the jet structures here. This is the jet structure down to the south. And basically your jet exit region is right at that gradient, the termination of that jet streak. This is your jet entrance region here. That's the entrance of that jet right as those upper level winds are accelerating. And when these are coupled, basically the left side of that exit region, when it's coupled with the right side of the entrance region, there's lift associated with both of those. And when those are coupled, both of those areas of lift, it creates substantial lift in the upper levels of the troposphere. Basically a giant vacuum cleaner in the upper atmosphere that leads to surface pressure falls, bomb cyclogenesis, rapid deepening of that surface low off the east coast. That leads to greater warm advection to the east downstream of that surface low as you get that warm conveyor belt, that low-level jet that transports that heat and moisture back up into the cold air mass, leading to that stripe of snow. When you get that warm advection to the east of the coastal low, it leads to ridging through the atmosphere. So you get an enhancement of the ridge. You also get an enhancement of the trough, and you get this pivoting that happens where you get a negative trough axis, and then you get the ridge just upstream leading to that buckling. That also helps to prolong this coupling between the jet entrance region and the jet exit region, leading to increased bomb cyclogenesis. And you can actually you can see this coupled jet structure. You can actually look at the forecast models, look at that surface reflection, and that's exactly where that coastal storm will bottom out. So that is at 9Z Saturday. Those are the early morning hours on Saturday when you can see that coupled jet structure. There's going to be bomb cyclogenesis that will be well underway downstream and directly underneath that coupled jet, and then that's going to head up just offshore of southern New England. I do still think there is a very outside chance that bomb cyclone could pass just to the east, which would bring that snow band just a little bit offshore, but confidence is definitely increasing on a hit of at least southern New England with a stripe of snow, possibly even approaching a couple of feet of snow. Big time winds as well on the northwest side of that jet. Here you can see the loop of the 300 millibar winds with that coupled jet structure right there, right off the east coast. That is when you get that bomb cyclone that forms just off the east coast. Here is your surface reflection. And watch that surface low form right off of North Carolina, right within that coupled jet structure. It becomes a little bit of a wobbler as well as the upper levels are getting more buckled, wobbling even a little bit closer to shoreline, bringing that heavy snow right over Cape Cod. You can also see that blocking high in the northeast and eastern Canada. That's going to help to solidify the cold air mass in place. And this is right at the end of a pattern shift. We've had that positive P&A so far with a ridge to the west, a trough to the east. Usually you get at least a couple of coastal storms out of this. And then right when that pattern's about to break, a lot of times it takes a big time storm system just like this to lead to that pattern shift. Whether that causes a pattern shift or whether it's associated with it is a whole nother debate. But we are about to see that pattern shift toward more of a negative P&A, more of that troughing in the western U.S. that's more favorable for severe weather across the Great Plains and Dixie Alley. And that's when I'm going to be shifting toward tornado chase mode over the first week of February. But first, we got to focus in on this bomb cyclone. It looks like I'm going to be heading up to the Boston or Cape Cod area, teaming up with Accuweather once again to cover this live nor'easter up across Cape Cod. This is just the GFS model, and I also want to share with you the European model and the different model solutions. So let's go back to our internet. Perfect phasing here indicated for this system. This is by February 8 and 9. This is the active severe weather pattern that we're talking about. Let's let this loop start over again, and I'm going to show you this phasing. There it is. There's a system coming south out of Canada, that main vort over the Hudson Bay region. Trough axis extends all the way south, merges up with that lobe of vorticity, gains the negative tilt. Ridge develops upstream. You get that classic coupled upper level pattern with these bomb cyclones. And that's also likely going to bring that big time snow band very close to southern New England. It looks like areas like Boston, even New York City, could certainly get hammered by this thing. There's your 1035 high. Step forward a bit. 1030 high here, just anchored, dominating the northeast. Plenty of cold air in place. That 540 line all the way down through the Carolinas. So plenty of cold air in place across the northeastern U.S. And we're starting to get that coupled jet structure. Let's go up to the 300 millibars so that we can see that coupling beginning to arrive. Let me make sure this is all lined up properly. It is. Good. We are dominating. So let's step forward another 24 hours. That's Friday, 18Z. That's Saturday. So all of that happens very fast. This is Friday at 18Z. We're going to go Friday to 21Z. You can definitely see this subtropical connection. This is a subtropical jet. This is the polar front jet. And definitely a suppressed subtropical jet, as is often the case with a La Nina. And El Nino, you often get a dominant subtropical jet, especially with those strong El Nino events. So here you can see the coupling of the jet starting to take shape. You have a bit of a jet streak that's rounding the base of that trough. You also have a jet streak over top, that subtle ridge that's located downstream. Our trough here is starting to gain that neutral tilt across the eastern U.S. There you can see that trough, and it definitely has interaction with the subtropical jet. That leads to shear vorticity on the base of the trough, helps to deepen it, helps to gain that neutral tilt, and then eventually gaining a positive tilt. That helps to get this coastal cyclogenesis that happens off the coastline of North Carolina here. Already starting to get a lot of warm advection upstream of that coastal low, and that's going to help to expand that ridge. Here you can see that low-level jet just beginning to take shape off of the eastern seaboard. That's 500 millibars. Let's head on up to 300 millibars so we can see when the coupling really starts to maximize. And there it is, Saturday at about 9Z, just after midnight. You can see this jet rounding the ridge downstream, which is an amplifying ridge because of that warm advection beneath the ridge. You can also see this jet streak around the base of the trough, aided by the subtropical connection. The interaction of the subtropical jet and your polar front jet helps to increase the amplitude of this trough as it arrives on the east coast. By this time, by Saturday, the trough has a neutral tilt, but it's starting to gain that negative tilt. And that also helps to exacerbate that jet coupling. Here is your exit region of the jet. Here's your entrance region of the jet. And you want to see where the right side of that entrance region coincides with the left side of the exit. And the reason why the left exit coincides with rising motion is because your ageostrophic wind is directed like this, basically from northwest to southeast, perpendicular to that jet streak, and where you get the evacuation ageostrophically of air aloft. That's where you get diffluence, and then you also get diffluence in the right entrance region of the jet. And where those couple, where those meet up, that's where you get the most rapid cyclogenesis, which can be bomb cyclogenesis often. So there's your surface low, 988 by this time. You're going to have little sub-vortices that are spinning around inside of this like a multiple vortex tornado. You've got your blocking high upstream across eastern Canada. That's your 1036 high. This is the 12Z GFS, and we can head on over to the European model as well. And pretty good agreement between the 6Z European and the 12Z GFS. We're still waiting on that 12Z European model. A very good agreement between those two models, at least in the positioning of that surface low. And in fact, the new GFS even has a deeper surface low now, which is probably more accurate. Oftentimes, these models have difficulties dealing with the non-linearities and positive feedbacks that are associated with a bomb cyclone like this. Big time pressure gradient between that 1035 high that's dominating eastern Canada and this bomb cyclone. That by Saturday late morning is going to be located off Cape Cod. Possibly even wind gusts over hurricane force out there on the Cape if this model is accurate. Which there is the agreement is increasing now amongst the different models, and so it's looking almost like a certainty across southern New England for a big time impact. 972 low just offshore of Cape Cod. These northerlies are going to be hammering Cape Cod. Storm surges are going to be happening with a storm like this. Basically like a hurricane, except it is a winter storm that feeds off the temperature gradients up here in the mid-latitudes. Oftentimes they'll have a much bigger wind field as well than those compact warm core systems. This is a cold core cyclone. Hits 966 millibars just outside of the Gulf of Maine as it moves off to the northeast. 961 millibars now. And then it ejects by Saturday evening. Still, though, down east Maine getting absolutely blasted by big-time snow. So let's see what the snow map says now from the GFS. This is the 12Z GFS, and we'll compare the snow maps between the 12Z GFS and with the 6Z European that's already out. So this is the 12Z European. It has like 20 inches of snow, 18 to 20 across Boston and portions of the Northern Cape. New York City just outside of the action zone. You're probably going to be, this looks to me like it's going to be more of a southern New England type of a storm, but there still is a chance that this could miss the coastline completely. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of factors that have to come in for these coastal storms to happen. An interaction of those two short waves, the main short wave dropping south out of Canada, picking up a lobe of vorticity, phasing, then gaining that negative tilt, building that ridge upstream. Definitely that evolving coupled jet structure over the western edge of that temperature gradient that is along the western edge of the Gulf Stream. All of those variables have to come together perfectly to generate this swath of snow, and it has to happen over land. So that's why it is relatively uncertain, even just a couple of days before the event. But the confidence is increasing in this system happening. Here's the 6Z European model that also has New York City getting hammered, has eastern New Jersey getting hammered all the way down to the Delmarva Peninsula and southern New England. I'm interested to see when the 12Z European model comes out that if it is in agreement with the GFS definitely is shifting east, more toward a southern New England type of a storm system, maybe even out toward Maine. So if this model verifies, I'll be heading up to the Boston area. We'll rent a car. We'll get blasted by those hurricane force winds, whiteout conditions, bomb cyclone down over eastern Massachusetts. Maybe we'll have to get right up on Provincetown or Chatham out there right on the tip of the Cape. That way we'll really experience those powerful winds coupled with the heavy snowfall rates. So this is going to be like a hurricane chase, except very dangerous because there's going to be cold air in place, whiteout conditions. There's going to be storm surges as well along the northern edge of that coastline, along those storm surge prone areas and the inlets as well along the east coast. So it does look like it is going to be a pretty dangerous storm. But if it shifts off to the east during the models today, it's possible that this thing could even just be more of a Cape Cod type of a monster maybe even impacting the portions of eastern Long Island. We'll just have to continue to monitor these models, though, as they become available, run to run, as we are at the mercy of the windshield wiper effect. Let me slide that a little off to the left so that you can see the full snow map. There is the GFS, and then we'll head on over to the European model. There is the European. So the European model has eastern New Jersey, New York City, all of Connecticut, a larger swath of southern New England getting hit. That's the 6Z European, the operational one. We can also look at all the individual ensemble members, which we'll be doing next. But it does look like the 12Z GFS is shifting. Well, that's 6Z, and then this is 12Z. Strong agreement between the 6Z and the 12Z GFS. This looks like a Boston, Cape Cod, southern New England type of a storm, eastern Long Island, eastern Maine. So there is definitely getting this shift to the east that's happening run to run. The 0Z GFS, well, from 0Z to 12Z, roughly similar. But remember, the upper level pattern gains that negative tilt to the trough and the ridge combo. That's going to likely bring that low pressure closer up to southern New England. That's why confidence is so much greater for this storm to impact southern New England. But look at that shift between 18Z yesterday and 12Z today. It's amplifying that system just a little bit offshore, but then brings it closer to the shoreline. Southern New England, Rhode Island, southeastern Massachusetts, southern Maine, coastal Maine, down east Maine especially, and Nova Scotia are going to get hammered. Frankie McDonald up there in Nova Scotia, you always just get blasted by these nor'easters. Whether or not they hit southern New England or the northeastern U.S., they usually cause problems up into Nova Scotia as well. Let's see what the NAM shows for fun. Ooh, the NAM is further west, folks. The 12Z NAM brings New York City, all of Long Island into the action, all of eastern Massachusetts. Boston is definitely the safer bet because of whether this thing amplifies closer to the shoreline or a little bit further off and then makes a turn back to the northwest. Southern New England is definitely the safest bet for more of a certainty of snow. But boy, does the NAM bring it back closer to New York City, eastern New Jersey, even the Delmarva, similar to some of those runs of the European model, the 6Z run of the European as well. Oops. Kinds of cool stuff on here, but that's the main gist. Is we're gonna have this big coastal storm, eastern U.S., southern New England seems highly certain to get impacted by this storm system, and it looks like it is going to mark a pattern shift as well, where I think that we're going to get more of a severe weather pattern. So let me show you this severe weather pattern in the long range. This is on the GFS, and this is a shift that I was telling you about in a negative, toward a negative PNA. We're in a bit of a positive PNA. Let me slide this over a little bit to the right just to show you the global pattern here. This is around February 2nd. So in early February, see how you get a trough that's dominating the western U.S. and then a ridge across the eastern U.S. That's the opposite of how the pattern's been for at least the last couple of weeks. So the ridge dominating the western U.S., a trough over the east, Alberta Clippers dropping northwest to southeast, sometimes phasing with an area of vorticity that might get left behind over the Four Corners or the southern plains, and then rising up the east coast. Sometimes you'll get a coastal storm that'll hammer portions of the northeast, like we might have this weekend at the end of this pattern and at the pattern shift. And it looks like we're going to get a shift with this ridging over that positive NPO over the North Pacific. We're going to shift on back to our negative PNA, and this is a pattern that I expect to last through the spring. And then maybe the summer we'll start to get that dominating summertime anticyclone, the return of the drought conditions across the high plains. But I do expect the spring to be relatively active from the southeastern Great Plains and across the Mid-South. And this is a pattern here in early February that is quite favorable for severe weather. A negative PNA, big trough ejection. This is a long range. We're starting to get a little closer to 200 hours. But this is a very favorable pattern for severe weather. Right at the inflection point of that trough and the ridge downstream is where you'd expect that severe weather to happen. The Gulf of Mexico is going to have to recover a bit between now and then, and it looks like it does. Look at that reservoir of 70s dew points just sitting down there in the Gulf of Mexico like a ticking time bomb. All it's going to take is a big time trough, like is being indicated in that first week of February, for that low-level jet to dig down into the Gulf of Mexico, pull that moisture northward across the Great Plains and the Mid-South to get severe weather. And then I'm going to head on over to Dallas on February 8 and 9 for the NBAA Leadership Conference. And it's right during a period of favorable severe weather across the Southern Plains. I'm going to give that talk, chase across the Southern Plains and the Mid-South. But look at that reservoir sitting in the Gulf of Mexico. One thing I'm noticing is that even with this positive PNA pattern, the Gulf of Mexico recovers easily. You've got all this moisture sitting down here over the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, setting the stage for that active period of severe weather in early February. This is around February 2nd, and the Gulf is cleared out over the eastern Gulf, but notice these 70s creeping up, even through the eastern Pacific and up across the western Gulf of Mexico, just ahead of that pattern. Gulf of Mexico is getting a lot healthier. You can even see those 60s dew points over eastern Texas and the Mid-South. That includes Louisiana as well. Let me lift this up a bit. That's why you can't even see the reservoir in the Gulf in here. So there's those deep moisture values. The purple are 70 plus dew points oozing through the western Gulf of Mexico. So this is a recovery, rapid recovery from the positive PNA. Look at that reservoir of that purple down there. Deep dew points sitting across the Gulf of Mexico. 60s moving on shore as well. And that's associated with that negative PNA. The trough across the western U.S., the ridge across the east. You get a southerly low-level jet and the inflection point between those two. Southerly low-level jet transporting that moisture northward. So this Gulf of Mexico pattern here into early February is a ticking time bomb for sure for severe weather. We are going to have a coastal storm, it appears, this weekend that's going to mark that pattern shift, and then it looks like we are going to shift toward a more favorable severe weather pattern with that negative PNA, trough across the western U.S., ridge across the east, big deep moisture sitting in the Gulf of Mexico with those purples happening down there, 70 plus dew points, setting the stage for severe weather. And look at those 60s dew points penetrating into the Mid-South. Classic La Nina year 2 negative PDO type of a pattern. When it shifts to this negative PNA, it usually shifts hard, and then you'll get these substantial events across the Mid-South. 2011 was a lot like this with the super outbreaks of April 15, April 27, 2011, large-scale tornado outbreaks, hundreds of tornadoes during those outbreaks. So I do think we're going to get a similar pattern. Of course, you're going to get those occasional positive PNA patterns that will break in North America, but it does look like the Gulf of Mexico is going to have a tendency to recover very fast as we go into early February. So thank you everybody for tuning in to this weather report. It is focused on the bomb cyclone that's going to be impacting the Northeast, but also the pattern shift that's going to impact the central and southern U.S. with a return of severe weather. Looking at the surface map right now, there is some sleet being reported in Lubbock, 23/18, light sleet, Plainview, 1 mile visibility, and light snow. So the damage has been done with that winter weather advisory down across the southern plains. Here is that surface map, showing you some impactful snow. Amarillo, 21/17, 3/4 of a mile of visibility. So it is more of a panhandle event. There was some snowfall across Oklahoma, but dry conditions are dominating the state of Oklahoma right now. 20 plus degree temperature dew point spreads, even approaching 30 there over Oklahoma City. 30 degree temperature, 1 degree dew point. So a lot of this dry air is definitely feeding the snow band that's over the panhandle. A little bit more moist over the panhandle, but definitely colder. About 20 degrees over the panhandle with light snow falling, some light sleet as well. Freezing precipitation over the southern panhandle. freezing drizzle happening down there. Fort Stockton is reporting freezing rain, 29 over 28 right now. So that is just a little winter storm that's happening across the southern plains. Yesterday, there was a big winter storm near the Burlington, Colorado area and into western Kansas. And asinine snowfall totals were reported just to the south of Goodland, southeast of Burlington. 27 inches were reported right at that pivot point where that band was moving northwest to southeast over the same areas. Reminds me a lot of an event in 2003 that was embedded within this northwesterly flow, a very compact vortex that brought a surprise 20 inches of snow to the southeast side of Ponca City up through Payne County, north central Oklahoma. Had a surprise 1.5 feet of snow, even approaching 2 feet up there, when the forecast only showed about 3 to 5 inches. So a very similar storm system, compact vort diving off to the southeast, associated with a very strong band with that frontogenesis that was happening across the high plains of Colorado and into western Kansas. So you definitely had a very strong band that was dropping 3 to 4 inch per hour snowfall rates, eventually resulting in a 27 inch total just to the south of Goodland, which is pretty incredible. So thank you everybody for tuning in to this weather report. There is your coastal storm. I'm going to be chasing it for Accuweather. I'm also going to be running another 10 miles here today, hopefully in these dry conditions with a beautiful bluebird sky above. Here is the Gizmo shirt that I usually wear almost every day. So if you're interested in a Gizmo shirt, check out the website reedtimmerstore.com. That's where those are available. But we are going to be snow chase mode this weekend, severe weather early February, and then the NBAA Leadership Conference coming up February 8 and 9, and likely more storm chasing after that through the middle of the month. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this morning. Never stop chasing.